Hey, it's me, Bobbert, and today I'm finally reviewing Sonic 06. I've been avoiding this game for a long time and for so many reasons. Mostly because it's overdone and I'd be pretty much very late to the party, but since this game is turning 15 years old this year, I think it's about time to review this game. When I was 18 years old, when the internet was still kind of new socially before Facebook and Twitter exploded, I was catching up on video games and hanging out in Sonic forums. I'll talk about many different Sonic media from video games, cartoons, and comics, but Sonic 06 was a very hot topic during that time. Now I could talk a whole lot about this, but I try to keep this as short and simple as possible. But before the game release, there was so much hype and excitement, and people said the game looks great based on the screenshots, and they considered it a revival of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now the games before then, like Sonic Heroes, was a bit disappointing. Shadow the Hedgehog was very experimental. That's another review for another time. And the only thing that was keeping Sonic alive during that time was the handheld games, the Sonic Advance series, and the most recent game, Sonic Rush. But in home console 3D Sonic, Sonic was struggling to stay alive and hoping this game would finally be the return of Sonic. But after the game released, many people were disappointed. I was reading all the bad reviews, comments. I can't believe that a Sonic game could be so negative. Back then, I liked Heroes. Never played Shadow, and most of my Sonic experience from that time was the handheld games like Sonic Advance and Sonic Rush. So I thought Sonic was doing all right during that time, but I didn't know how bad Sonic had it. And this game pretty much was the death of Sonic for most people. I know that's a bit of a spoiler, but I'm pretty sure most of y'all know that this game is bad. And, well, let's not wait any longer. Let's actually talk about the game. Okay, before I begin with the actual review of the game, I just want to say that this is only part one of possibly 3 or 4 parts, and this video is going to focus on Sonic and his main friend. So if I left something out, like other playable characters, parts of the story, many are going to say that for Shadow and Silver story because it makes more sense. So I'm sorry if I'm going through the story real quick. Anyways, let's begin. The story begins with what looks like a beginning of a JRPG game rather than a Sonic game. Princess Elise was celebrating a festival until Eggman shows up and tries to kidnap her. Sonic shows up and saves the day, and then the next cutscene loses the princess right after that. For the most part, this happens multiple times in Sonic's story. Pretty sure it was only like 3 times, but it felt like 5 or 6 times that the princess was kidnapped and saved again. In between that, we have Silver trying to kill Sonic. For whatever reason, we're gonna find that out in Silver's story and calls him the Iris Trigger. And Sonic and his friends time travel where they meet Shadow and Rouge. How they get there, gotta find that out in Shadow's story. Other than that, Sonic's story is pretty basic and boring, and pretty much does the same thing over and over again by saving Princess Elise. And it seems like Sonic and Elise has this weird kind of friendship, a bit of romance, and well, again, we're going to save that part for the final story. even though I'm pretty sure everybody knows the story from beginning to end by now. But again, we're gonna save that till later. You may notice that the visual is not very consistent, that it's all over the place. The beginning looks great, but the majority of the game looks pretty rushed, unfinished, and at times look like a shovelware regame. And seeing these realistic humans next to these cartoony animals and the realistic animals like that eagle doesn't really mix very well to me. Of course, there's humans in Sonic games before, like the Adventure series. Even though I question why humans were in a Sonic game back then, at least they don't look too out of place. That you can imagine these humans can exist with these talking animals. And of course, Dr. Eggman himself is a human, but he's probably more cartoony than any of the other humans before then. And this version of Dr. Eggman, they try to make him realistic, but at the same time keep his over the top cartoony figure, like the oversized stomach, the big mustache, and everything. And it just doesn't work well with me. It looks a bit uncanny. As far as gameplay, well, let's start with Sonic first. This game is broken, as you already know. With that being said, and granted on a curve against all the other playable characters in this game, Sonic is not half bad, really. By the way, every time I give this game a compliment, it's always comparing it to itself and not overall. Overall this game is bad. It's just that, Sonic compared to the others is actually not that bad. Sonic moveset is mostly the same as Adventure 2. He got a homing attack, a bounce attack, ring dash, and more. Some of these moves are not available until you buy it at a shop. You pay rings for each ability. Most of them you don't really need to progress. Mainly talking about the gems, and you usually have enough rings when you get access to the next move, so it's not too restricted. You can also get extra rings by doing these side missions, which some of them are mandatory, but most of the times you can just go through the game without going through these side missions. The controls are too sensitive when turning. Raining feels a little slower compared to the adventure games, and on rare occasion, the button presses are not responsive at time, mainly when you do the slide. First time playing this game was back in 2008, so I was familiar with the reputation of this game beforehand, but I still couldn't get into it. I kept dying a lot due to bad level design and of course the controls. But now I know how to work with the mechanics, know all the traps and trials and errors, like landing at a certain spot of the cliff so you don't fly off, or the desert level with the sinking sand. Pretty much all the traps are very familiar with this game. I was prepared beforehand and had a much easier time beating the game as Sonic, at least. The Mark Speed section was another part of the game where I died a lot. It's a section where Sonic moves by himself on rails and you need to guide him to the end of the level. The biggest problem is that when you jump up, you can't move around like usual, so he's just stuck in that one direction, and hopefully it's not towards a bottomless pit, or else it's an easy death. Back then, I used to die a lot getting game overs, but now that I'm familiar with the mechanics and know what to do, in this playthrough, I got through my first time in most of these Mark Speed sections, 3 times at the most. So again, understanding the mechanics really does help a lot, and you'll have a much easier time with this game, at least as Sonic. The biggest problem with Sonic is the camera, in my opinion. I'm not used to it. It's usually positioned at an awkward angle. You can adjust it, but I think you need to do this constantly with every character. Sonic is not that bad, but other characters has different results, in my opinion. Tails is unplayable to me. The biggest problem is when flying, moving left and right is very sensitive. The camera angle is always awkward, especially when trying to land on a platform. Uh, Most of the time the platforms are pretty big, so it's no big problem, but when trying to land on the smaller platforms, it could be very difficult and lead to a easy death. And you move so fast in the air, so you can't really take your time. His only attack is a ring bomb, which you can attack in a dead person, first person, or in the air. And they spread out these fake rings, which seems pretty pointless, but other than that, you don't play as Tails as much, so you can get used to it a little bit. But Tails is definitely the worst part of Sonic's story, and maybe even the whole game in general. Honestly, I forgot Knuckle existed in this game, especially in the second half of Sonic's story. He first appeared at a warehouse, went to the future with Sonic and Tails, and then disappeared right after that. He reappeared at the end with no explanation. Well, he didn't actually reappear. It's just a text box that says Sonic, Tails, and Knuckle go to the laboratory, and I was like, Knuckles still at this time. Like, they didn't really explain his disappearance or reappearance. Uh, that's how you can tell this game is pretty rushed. But then again, you already knew that by playing the game. As for Knuckles' gameplay, it's the same as Adventure but worse because you get stuck on the wall very easy. It's not that big of a deal. You can get out of it pretty easily, but it's still something that shouldn't happen. I think I only played as him twice during the whole story. Once in the volcano city crisis area, and the other one's at the laboratory. So Knuckles didn't have time to leave any impression on me, other than he just there. The levels are not that bad for the most part. Again, comparing the game to itself, so keep that in mind. There are some level design problems, and the stages are not being rendered as rare as it should be. Even though I didn't dislike these levels as much as I expected to, I think I remember the worst part of the stages rather than the good parts. Like that desert stage with the sinking sand. But once you know how that works, it's a pretty simple stage. There's also these jungle flowers that you need to time your jump right when it's flashing. I feel like it has a real timing. Like every time I jump while it's flashing, I end up dying. I think you have to jump, like a second before it flashes. At least that's the best result I got. And anything with snowboarding or skateboarding, they pretty much work like the Mark Speed section, but you have more control. And of course, when you jump, you stick to that position. So make sure you time your jump right. These little side mission things I didn't do a whole lot because most of them are pretty optional. The one that sticks to my mind is the find the captain of the guards, which is pretty easy. Just talk to the guy who's the lieutenant, which is the guy you talk to first. And the other one is the trials. Uh, Pretty rare trials. The teleporting thing was pretty annoying, and the trial of Earth is simple, but pretty much pick which square that Sonic goes to. It doesn't really matter which one you pick because the ending is still the same. Other than that, the side missions are pretty boring. And I guess while I'm here, I don't talk about the loading screen. because everybody knows that the loading screen is too long, and it's especially noticeable when you're doing these side missions where you have multiple ones. But yeah, the loading screens are pretty long. It didn't annoy me that much. I was playing with the Xbox 360 Elite. I'm not sure if that performs a little bit faster than your standard Xbox, but again, didn't really annoy me that much. The boss battle would be decent if the majority didn't take too long by piling out each attack. Almost every boss suffers from this. In order for you to attack, you must wait until the boss does every attack pattern before you get an opening, making each boss fight last longer than it should. The worst boss battle, the worst example of this would be the Everest Fire Snake boss, where you gotta wait for him to summon some platforms to get to the orbs, and that takes a long time. And there's also other attacks you need to wait before you get an actual opening. It could take like about 10 minutes, or at least it feels like it takes about 10 minutes. I guess the best boss battle compared to the other bosses would be Silver. Uh, the trick is to attack when you hear his voice, about to attack when he's grabbing finisher. Uh, I guess they want you to use the camera. The problem is the camera moves pretty slow, so by the time you move the camera to see him, he's already attacking, so just wait for the audio cues. The final part of the story and boss battle. Sonic's mission is to save Elise before the egg carrier crashes. The first attempt he failed, which made Sonic sad, and he thought it was too late. And then he remembered they can time travel with Chaos Emerald, so they just went back and tried again, making that scene pretty pointless. The Eggman battle again suffers from padding. There's a lot of raiding, and it's on its own. It's not a bad battle. Uh, it's just the padding that kills it. And in the end, Sonic does save Elise. They have it at F, and they keep quoting this phrase: "If you have time to worry, then run." I mean, I get that's supposed to be more like a metaphor. I'm assuming, but just taking that sentence as is, it sounds. It doesn't really make any sense. Like, even if you get like Bray Wyatt to say that, if you have time to worry, then run, like in a directing manner, it probably makes the most sense, or like in a horror movie. But as a inspirational quote, it, it's really bad advice. But other than that, that's the end of the story. Alright, final thoughts on Sonic's story at least. I thought about whether to do this now or wait to the end of the uh, actual series, but I decided to get my thoughts on Sonic's story overall. For the most part, I had more fun than I expected. It's still a bad game, but knowing the ins and outs and knowing what not to do, this game could be pretty enjoyable. I really like playing as Sonic a lot, even in his worst stages, mainly the snowboarding stage. Tails was unplayable, but good thing he was limited. Knuckles didn't leave that much of an impression because he didn't get to press him that much. And the story is, well, probably the most boring compared to the other two main stories. It's just repeating the story back and forth, rescue the princess, gets kidnapped again, etc., with Silver and his story and Shadow and his story in between, which I talk more about in their parts. But overall, right now, it's looking a lot better than I expected. Of course, Sonic's story, it wasn't the one I'm afraid of. Is Shadow and especially Silver would be the next part. And Silver, I'm worried about his gameplay, especially that one level, but that's not until another time. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you continue to watch part 2 and 3 and possibly 4 depending on how I structure this. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later.